Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grieving process. Join Dave and his guests now as they share practice tips and tools that you can start using immediately to help get you through this day. Now, here's your caregiver host, Dave Nassani.
From Los Angeles, big LA, welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I am Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver, at caregiverdave.com. And usually my lovely co-host Adrienne is with us today, but she could not make it today. We're going to miss her. But she's at Caregiver Space, thecaregiverspace.org. And we're coming to you live and on demand on 18 global and audio video platforms: iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, Mixcloud, Listen Notes, Blueberry, Player FM, Podcast.com, VIP Internet Radio, TuneIn.com, Facebook Live, HealthyLife.net, and CaregiverDave.com. And we're so proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM and one of the top 6 best podcasts by Caring.com, Caregiver Podcast, as well as #3 Caregiver Podcast out of thousands that are on Caregiver Podcasts on FeedSpot. So we have an exciting show planned for you today. We are talking with Precious Goodson, and Precious is a very special person. She's an educator, a speaker, a scholar, a blogger, a writer, a leader in the military community. She's a military caregiver to a combat wounded vet and advocate for military families. Her husband served 17 years in the military service and sustained mental and physical wounds during this last tour to Afghanistan. In 2010, she resigned from her job as an elementary teacher to care for her husband. And we'll learn more about that as we get more into the show. And I just want to remind everybody that this show can be heard after it's live. We are on Facebook Live as well. And I think that's about it. I do want to thank my last week's guest, which is Joe. Where did I write that down? Shame on me. Joe Lafferty, yes, the bionic man. He almost died. Actually, he did die, and he came back to life, and they gave him all these different parts to his body, a new liver, a new kidney. I mean, the guy is truly the bionic man. And you can hear that interview as well on all those sites that I mentioned. Well, Precious, welcome to the show. And she is precious, by the way, folks.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
So
you are not.
What?
I said that was very nice of you to say.
Oh, you're paying me a compliment. How sweet. Thank you. Thank you. It's the Mutual Admiration Society. So why don't you take a minute or two, Precious, and introduce yourself. I like to ask my guests, just who is Precious Goodson and why was she put on this earth?
Well, I was put on this earth to help. I believe that one thing that I can say from all of the years that I have been here on this planet, that I have chosen to do things to help others, and I have a servant heart, even from teaching, and I'm understanding and discovering this even more, that the servant heart carries a person, I believe, to the purposes that they have here. And from teaching to leading to caring, and then to advocating. I believe all of those things are somehow connected. So.
Right. Hey, do me a favor. Lower your screen a little so we don't see so much ceiling. There we go.
Sure.
We got more of you. And
okay.
You look so young,
No
Precious. You look like a high school student. So
now that
all your years on Earth. How old are you?
Now that is a question you do not ask a female. You know that being married. How many years, Dave?
I don't see one wrinkle on your face. I don't see one piece of gray hair on your head. So you got to be like 19.
That is all 1910. That's it.
All right. Well, you're old enough to be married, and I think I said it in your introduction. Did I say 17 years? Let me look back here. Served
I
17 years in the military. Oh my gosh! So you,
my husband served.
oh,
Yeah,
well,
so
you
I've
got to
been
be the same
married.
age, though, I guess, or roughly.
Well,
So,
no, no. Now, my husband he began serving in the military before we married. So,
okay.
my husband and I have been together for 21 years and married for 19.
So,
So,
in other words, you're
yeah,
not a teenager anymore.
I am not a teenager. No
Neither
more.
am I, even though I look like it. All right, down to business here. What were some of the
Okay.
challenges that you faced when your husband first returned? Now, first of all, he was in Afghanistan, right?
Right.
A
So, my
war we are
husband,
still fighting after 19 years, right?
yeah. So my husband, just to give you a little background first, he served in the military for 17 years, all as a combat medic. He actually completed 2 tours, one in Desert Storm in 1995, and then one in Afghanistan, which was his last tour.
Wow, we
So,
are so thankful for his service, and as is most usually the case, they don't come back the same person. They either come back something mentally different, something physically different, something emotionally different. And
hmm
we really need to take better care of our vets because we wouldn't be here speaking and having free speech and celebrating how wonderful America was if it wasn't for those brave men and women who constantly do that. And then even the firefighters and the first responders. This is 9/11 today. For those of you who are
right.
listening to a recorded podcast, we are celebrating the amazing qualities in first responders that make them rush into danger while everyone else is running away from danger. And I'm
hmm
personally affected by 9/11 because I had a second cousin, Sean Nassani, who thought he was going to Hawaii with his girlfriend on a break from college, and he hopped on a plane at United Airlines, and the next
hmm
thing you know, that plane is the second jet to hit the World Trade Center in the South Tower. And we just remember him and everyone. When I was in New York, I went to the memorial for the first time. They let me in free because I was a family member, which was nice. And it was just
hmm
a very solemn moment. I found where his
hmm
name was and took some pictures of it. And
Uh-huh.
and you know, God bless America. That's all I can say. And I'm
Mhm.
just so grateful for the freedoms that we have because of men like your
Yeah.
husband. So how was he different when he came back?
Well, so the challenge is that he was different more. He received more support for his physical injuries when he first returned from Afghanistan.
What were they? The
Um,
physical.
so my husband was diagnosed with cervical spondylosis, degenerative back and lumbar as well. And he was diagnosed with, well, those were his main injuries coming back. But I have to say that since he returned, multiple injuries have stemmed from that. That include um, post-traumatic stress disorder, severe and chronic, mild traumatic brain injury, um, and a myriad of other injuries that requires him to receive multiple treatment for. I would like to say that I wish I could say truthfully that his care has the need for care has diminished, but that has not been the case.
Mm.
Um, since he returned, it's been a 10-year walk so far, and
Wow.
that has not been a progressive walk towards recovery the way I actually was hoping that it would be. Actually, I was expecting it to be. So the road to recovery for a caregiver, it looks different for everyone, every person. And for me, Honestly, David, it's been a roller coaster. First 6 months, it looked one way while we were at Fort Stewart with the Wounded Transition Unit and receiving care and support from them. Then we returned to the community where I took on a 100% responsibility of caring for him. And then the whole look of how his care would be shifted. And then for about 2 or 3 years, the challenge was figuring out what to do, figuring out how to navigate the health benefits and how to navigate his care. And then 3 years into it, a shift again occurred when he was medically retired, and we relocated thinking that things would get better vocationally and everything. But instead, there was a setback, and he was involuntarily hospitalized several times during that stint of time. So again, going back to what I said earlier, it was a roller coaster, right? It was not a progressive walk towards his recovery, towards independence for him.
Wow. So sorry about that. He was in the service for 17 years, you say?
Yes, until he was medically retired in 2013.
So what rank did he climb to?
His highest rank was NCO E5, sergeant.
So what kind of tasks do you perform, for him as a caregiver?
Well, Dave, most of the tasks I perform for my husband are related to safety and supervision. So based on his conditions, I will name the most severe being PTSD. And then PTSD and TBI conditions, they overlap. The behaviors overlap somewhat.
Sure.
So the things I do to help him are mostly to do with safety supervision and helping him with cognitive tasks, helping with order and organizing the day, things like that.
Wow. So sorry. What made you decide to attend school while you were providing care? What were the different obstacles that you've had to come across and resolve?
So there were several reasons why I chose to return to school. First off was me trying to get over the hurdle of resigning from my teaching job of 10 years, which I'll say, some people they complain about the salaries for teachers, but I'll just say after 10 years of teaching anyway, what I'm saying is my salary, I was satisfied with it. I was satisfied with it.
You loved what you did. You were passionate about teaching.
I was passionate about helping people, absolutely.
You'd probably do it free if you could afford it.
I would help people free.
Yeah, sure.
So I actually went to school, first of all, because I saw that there was a way for me to contribute back to my household income. Okay, as a military caregiver, the opportunity was there to return to school on a benefit, an education benefit, which also allowed me to receive a stipend. That was the first reason why I returned to school, which, by the way, I'll say that if caregivers find the time, military caregiver benefit is the one I'm familiar with, but I'm sure there are other benefits out there for others. But if a military caregiver finds the time to return to school to receive that, I think it would definitely be worth a shot in trying to do if they had the bandwidth in their day where they could, they could make that happen. to benefit. Another reason why I returned to school is because I had because of the reason that I wanted to help people. E-learning is the major and the specialization that I decided to go back to do, and I just felt that it would be helpful to military caregivers. I don't know, it was something I was grabbing a hold of, trying to find a way to help caregivers in the area of e-learning and education.
Yeah.
So I guess just trying to take what I knew to do and make it better is what I was trying to work towards too.
Let's get back to him and his needs. So it sounds like he's pretty functional. He can bathe. His toilet things are okay. He can walk. Can he drive?
Functionally, the activity of driving, as you well know, Dave, is more than just one fold. I mean, so there is the actual ability to put your foot on the gas and the brakes and right, but then there's also the cognitive functioning that goes along with driving. As far as that's why we have GPS, and things like that. So the challenge with my husband's with driving is more so the cognitive functioning, and so even with GPS, he does need my assistance with driving when it comes to that.
So does he drive and you're in the passenger seat, or you do the driving?
We actually we've exchanged that role several times, and I'll tell you why. Also, in addition to the cognitive issue, is the PTSD and the rage. Okay, where sometimes it has happened where we are driving somewhere, but there's a altercation pretty much, or something that happens with another person that requires me to just take the lead and say, okay, no, you move over here, and I'm going to take the wheel now. That has happened several times.
Like if another driver cuts him off or does something like that, is that what you're talking about?
I would say innocently. If a driver does something that is innocent, it may not necessarily be cutting them off.
Just looking at him funny. And say, what are you looking at?
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you, Dave. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, most of them can be pretty paranoid that, people are looking at you, or, they're talking about you, or they're planning something against you. The paranoia. It's really sad what these vets have to go through. So
right, and he doesn't do it on purpose. I mean, because he wouldn't want to put me in harm's way on purpose, but that's what happens. Literally, he puts me in harm's way, and then
and different. Some are worse than others. I mean, some people come home and they kill their families with guns. Thank God that's not the case with you guys. But you just never know how severe it's going to be, but you're very fortunate, God bless you, that it's not, as bad as it is, because it could be a lot worse.
Yes, true.
As a caregiver, I want to talk about you. How are you doing? How bad was it when it first, when you first entered into and realized that you were a caregiver, if you even knew what a caregiver was, and how well did you handle it in the beginning, and did you burn out? Was there something that made you have to change what you do so that you can survive, put your mask on first, all that stuff?
Okay, well, I'll say that the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, too, I'll just preface by saying, has done an amazing job of putting together a military caregiver will, so to speak, or a process of what military caregivers deal with from the beginning stages all the way to the recovery stages. And I see myself in a lot of that. I actually had an opportunity to help to, contribute, because of my experiences as a military caregiver and as a fellow with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, had an opportunity to actually contribute to that. but so I will invite folks to, listeners to actually, um, look that up,
Yeah.
and if they're a caregiver, and see how they might fit in the stages of caregiving as
Hmm.
well. As far as me and my personal experience, I can say that when I first became a caregiver, okay, I will say first that recognizing that I was a caregiver was a big step, and that is a big step for
Yeah.
anyone who's providing care to someone that they love, because a lot of times people feel like, okay, they are just doing their duty by providing care to someone.
Right.
Well, really, it's a definition that anyone, Rand report, 2014 Rand report even says, is the definition that anyone who provides care for a family member, a friend, a spouse, and it's unpaid care,
Yeah.
they are considered to be an informal caregiver if it's unpaid.
Fair.
you know so basically, I recognize that, to go back to your question, I recognized that I was a caregiver almost immediately after my husband returned. I recognized when he was deployed to Afghanistan that I was merely, not merely, but I was a military spouse to him.
Right.
I visited the military base often while he was away, trying to understand what my role was, as my new role as a spouse to someone who was deployed, right? But when he returned from war injured, and then I had a new role, which was to help him to recover the best I could, I recognized that that role's title that I took on then was a caregiver,
Yeah.
a military caregiver, and that brought with it uncertainty, fear. I was very afraid. I did not know what to expect or what
Sure.
to do. So
Well,
um,
we're going to take a break, and then we'll talk about the support that you got that helped you when we get back. So don't go away. We'll be
okay,
right back.
okay.
One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships is about Charlene, a stroke survivor. Back in 1996, Charlene was a healthy, normal, very active 52-year-old woman whose amazing talents resemble that of both a Martha Stewart and a Wonder Woman. But all that changed when she suffered a massive stroke that left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on the right side. Everyone who knows Charlene is thoroughly amazed at how she lives day by day, month by month, year by year, and with a smile on her face and hope in her heart that everything is going to be okay. Just hear what best-selling author Lynn Barrington has to say about it. If you think you have it bad, read this book. This is a beautiful, genuine story told from the heart. It's inspiring and easy to read. When you finish this book, you'll be able to look at your concerns in a new light. One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships. Available everywhere.
And we're back with Precious Goodwin, a military wife and caregiver to her husband who served in Afghanistan and Desert Storm. And we're just so thankful on this 9/11 Memorial Day for the vets and those in first responders who keep us safe from domestic and foreign problems. And so we were talking about the support after you found out you were a caregiver and realized that it's not easy being a caregiver. In fact, I think it's the hardest job that is on this earth, especially if your loved one has dementia or Alzheimer's or post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injury. All of those things are bad, and some are worse than others. So where did you get your support? You mentioned the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. Did the military help you out at all with support or guidance of what is in store for you or the wife of a wounded vet?
Well, I believe the military helped out a lot when it comes to, because now I'm a doctor. You can call me Dr. Goodson, as a
Oh,
result of
how
the
did that
military.
happen?
Well, I went to school. Well, before my husband was injured, I had already earned advanced degrees. So when I decided to return to school to help to contribute to my husband as well as to help the caregivers with
Mm-hmm.
working on the topic I chose to explore, um, I I decided to choose a school that will work with that. So instead of going to a brick and mortar school, I went to an online school where a regionally accredited online school where I would have the opportunity to set my own schedule and meet the deliverables that were set for me to meet
Yeah.
in order to finish and complete the degree requirements.
What
So
kind of doctor are you? PhD?
I'm an EDD. I'm a practicing doctor of education,
Okay.
and the type of and what I would like to do is help caregivers. My whole
Yeah.
research study dealt with education and training for caregivers.
Wow,
So
we
you
should
want,
work together in the future.
yes, we absolutely should, Dave. I believe that we should.
Well,
hmm
that makes two of us.
So, so the
So
Elizabeth Dole.
go ahead, Elizabeth
I
Dole.
was going to say the Elizabeth Dole Foundation RAND study from 2014 actually had set forth in the recommendations of future research um, education and training for military caregivers. That should be something explored. So as a fellow with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and with the passion I already have to as a servant leader and to help people, I chose to explore that topic and how
Mm.
education and training could be developed for caregivers to help
And what
us
it,
to understand how to care, how to be better caregivers.
yeah, and what exactly is
Yeah.
your role with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation?
I served as an Elizabeth Dole Foundation Caregiver Dole Fellow in
Fellow.
2015. Yes, it's a fellow in 2015, 2016,
You
and
look like a
now
fella, not a fellow.
uh, okay, okay, whatever that means. So
Spanish
and
it ends in O if it's male and A if
okay.
it's female.
Oh, I see. I see. Of course. Of course, my Spanish name is Preciosa. Yes.
Um,
Uh-huh. So, but if I was a male, it would be Precioso probably. What do you think? But
Probably,
anyway,
yes.
diverting. Okay, let me get back to the subject. What I was saying is, an Elizabeth Dole Foundation Caregiver Dole Fellow is what I served at 2015, 2016, active. Now I still serve with the foundation because I have an opportunity to advocate and to raise my
Yeah.
voice to help caregivers about caregiver issues
You're
that have
highly
been found to
educated.
be critical. Thank you. Yeah. So basically now I still serve as an alumna though with the Elizabeth
Uh,
Dole Foundation.
Alumni
hmm
because you were a fellow?
Yes.
And what
I
is a fellow?
graduated. A fellow is, so the Elizabeth Dole Foundation has a program that is for basically the whole purpose of the foundation is to raise awareness and advocate for hidden heroes, those who care
Mm,
service members and veterans who've been injured, ill, or wounded due to military service.
yeah.
So the foundation has a program in place where caregivers from every state in the United States can represent that particular area and also serve as advocates and raise their voice on behalf of the caregivers, usually in that particular state, but nationally, to raise awareness about what caregivers need.
Wow.
Um, but there have been the progress that's been made for this population through has been tremendous. Um, and I'm really proud to serve and stand by to serve with the foundation myself. And I'm so fortunate and blessed, I believe, to have the opportunity to have had the opportunity to advocate. To meet with congressmen, to meet with the senators, to talk about
Oh, wow,
policy
you
for
did that?
caregivers. And yes, that's something that fellows also have opportunities to do.
That's my passion as well, to get into the political thing, and make the next healthcare plan, whoever is in the White House at the time, to have caregiver respite a part of that. I spent a lot of time in Hawaii speaking, and Hawaii is the only state in the nation who actually has a respite caregiver payment of $1,500 a month, regardless of whether you're working or not. You only need to work, I think, 25 or 30 hours, and you get it, and you can spend it on whatever you need, to help give you the time to go out and be a normal person and bring someone in to watch your loved one. And it's a great model for the rest of the country, and it should be. It should also be somehow involved in the next healthcare plan, I believe.
Sure.
So I just see myself eventually, testifying before Congress or the White House one day to do that, and I hope that's sooner rather than later. And
yes,
me too.
Well, me too, especially dealing with respite. It's a big deal, and it's something that the foundation has put before.
Remind me how we met again. I interview so many people, it's hard to keep track of who I met at the New York Publicity Summit and who, just by chance somebody, called or answered the website. Remind me how you and I met.
Well, let's see, for the sake of not trying to sound too philosophical, I don't know. I believe in destiny. I really do. Too. And so we were connected on LinkedIn, and you were in my network, and I was exploring some things on LinkedIn.
You contacted me.
You came up. Your profile came up, and I called you, and that's how we connected.
Yes. Cool. Yes, there are no accidents.
I don't believe that either.
So, how did you manage your time while you were completing your doctoral degree? That takes time. Now, obviously, you were home doing it, so that explains some of it because you're not out there going to classes and stuff. And how much care exactly does your husband need? I mean, are you with him like all the time, 24-hour care, or what are his freedoms? What is he capable of doing on his own? Where is his independence and not?
So my husband is a long way from being independent, but I'm hopeful every day that he reaches that place.
There is hope.
There is. I believe that. Let's see. The amount of time that he's needed for me it's not been the same from the time he's come. I wish I could give you a black and white answer. I cannot. It's so gray. It's so gray. When he first returned from Afghanistan, I gave the time. I would say I was by his side all the time, but he received a lot of his care from the Wounded Transition Unit at Fort Stewart. I was more of an advocate for him, fighting for his rights for health benefits, so that he received what he needs to get the care that he needed from the military. But when we returned, like I mentioned, when we returned back into the community, I was doing, I would say, over 40 hours a week of helping him. More time, more concentrated effort was put into, the safety, the supervision, the calls, the calendaring for him, the scheduling, the accompanying him to appointments and all of that. That took a lot of time. Then there were times when he was hospitalized, Dave. He was hospitalized, 30 days at a time. And there were times when my caregiving duties looked different, because in those times I was still caring for him, but it was more so, as a third party caring for him, outside looking in while the doctors were dealing with his medication. I was meeting with the doctors to go over his medication, more so of a civilian type of, trying to explain that, more of a outside role, caregiving role. More of that than a hands-on caregiving role when he was hospitalized, and that has happened at least 5 times. He's been hospitalized. So I can't really put an actual exact number, but I would say that my caregiving has fluctuated in the time that he's needed from 10 hours to 60 hours a week, depending on where he is at that time.
Yeah. Is he getting better? I mean, did that number go down? Did it used to be 80 hours?
What I can say is that he's receiving the support that he's receiving is that I'm receiving support to help him.
Now, is he getting support also? Does he go to support groups for people with TBI or post-traumatic syndrome or veterans? Any support groups there where he can like relate to other vets, and they can share stories and say, yeah, I tried this works, whatever.
Oh yes, he is. So my husband is, first of all, he is receiving support from the Wounded Warrior Project's Independence Program. Good. Yes, and so with that,
so he's on a plan to march in the direction of independence as much as possible.
He's on a plan. He's on a plan. He has a treatment plan, and we're working. We're working it.
That's why there's hope.
Yeah. There is hope. There is. Also, the veteran affairs here. He's treatment. He attends a group, like you asked, a support group. He does attend a support group for his injuries as well. And
how often is that?
So, one group that he attends meets once per week.
Mm-hmm.
But then he also is a part of a psychosocial rehabilitative treatment program that meets every day. And with that, he meets with them 3 times a week.
So you drive him to all these places?
It depends. Sometimes I do. Sometimes, he's fine. It just depends. But I tell you what, Dave, I also have, in addition to his GPS, we have several assistive devices that also help to make sure that I'm able to track and keep
Technology.
up with. Yeah, that's important.
So what does he do when he's home? Is he taking up any hobbies or vocations or, to keep him busy, people need to, things to keep from getting bored or go crazy, stir crazy. What does he do?
Well, again, the Independence Program at the Wounded Warrior Project, they are amazing, and I'm so grateful for that program.
That's your respite.
Yes, he has music therapy. He has a music therapist.
That's great.
Yes, a music
Singing,
therapist that comes into the house. Guitar.
Oh, guitar.
And this music therapist comes into our home and works with my husband once a week.
That's great.
Yes, my husband.
That's a whole different side of the brain, the music,
So he's writing a couple of songs, and I just get excited with him. He strums some beats, and I just get excited with him, and I'm happy to see. I tell you what, it's when I get a smile from my husband, it makes me feel good. It makes me happy.
And he likes it, right? He's digging it.
Yes.
All right. So what's a typical day? Just a day in the life. What does that look like? Good, bad, neutral?
Well,
all the above.
I'll say caring for my husband, there is no one typical day. Every day I have an approach that I take now, and it's every day is a new day. And I take each day as it comes, okay?
Yeah.
Because that's what I do. And because I tell you, I still plan, okay? Yeah. I still plan my days, but with that, I'm also very flexible with those plans.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm familiar with the qualities of a caregiver, absolutely.
Yeah. So my typical day will consist of, I open up, with prayer, devotion. I believe as a caregiver, we have that, it's so important. We need so much strength and support. Whoever we can receive that strength from. I mean, whoever a person's higher power is, that plug into it, because we caregivers need it. I
Yeah,
can plug in and say that I believe that I'm a Christian. I believe that
me too.
there's a special place. There's a special place in heaven for caregivers, because
Oh,
I just believe that.
I sure hope so.
I believe it.
Like we have a
So
bigger mansion overlooking the ocean or something.
that's right. That's right. So, I do that first thing, my typical day and what it looks like. I also then I have a day timer. Just to get back to the question, I have a day timer, and I either the same day of or the day before, or even sometimes the week before. I just write down the things that I need to do for the day. Sometimes, honestly, that list of things that I need to do, it might transpire over a few days. It might transpire over a week. It just depends on what the day ends up panning out and looking like. But I do have that as well. And then I use some technology organizational tools as well. GQs, Evernote, some organizational tools also to help, to keep organization in the day,
Yeah.
and typical day. Finally, also at the end of the day, I try and I keep a gratitude journal.
Yeah.
I
That's
journal,
good.
and at the end of the day for sure, but also in the middle of the day, I'm working. I'm trying to take some breaks, just to step away and to just read a book for 5 minutes or journal for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Something to give myself a mental break. That's important. Caregivers, that's important.
Let's
So
let's take another break, and
okay,
time's just whizzing on by here. So we'll be right
okay,
back.
yeah, it
Don't go
is.
away.
Okay.
Dave Nassani, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his sixth book entitled It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. And he now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his incredible caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. Will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life, and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today, or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere, and at caregiverscaregiver.com. And we're back on the Caregiver Dave Show. I'm Dave Nassani. This is Precious Goodson. I wanted to say Goodwin, but you're good son. Yeah, during my wife's 2-year grieving period, I think it was more like 2.5 years, where it's just hell, And I just remember thinking, I can't take this anymore. I'm a guy who can live on crumbs of appreciation. I wasn't even getting any crumbs. I wrote this letter. I says, Charlene, I just can't do this anymore. I know it's hard on you, but you're making it even harder on me to care for you. I just don't think I can be with you anymore. I'll take care of you financially, but I just can't be with you. And I had reached the end of my rope, and I read the letter, and I looked at it, and I says, I can't give this to her. That's the mother of my children, my soulmate. And I just filed it away and kind of went off into my depression and loneliness and hopelessness until I found a card in my pocket inviting me to a caregiver support group. And that's what started my road to recovery, realizing there were other people just like me, and if I didn't take care of me, I couldn't take care of her. And eventually, she started becoming her old self again, and our love was rekindled, and now we travel the country just sharing our message to caregivers how to stay alive, on stages and television and stuff like that. So yeah, appreciation is very, very, very important, and if your loved ones are out there listening, tell them you appreciate them every minute of the day. You can never do it too much. So how do we get a hold of you? War Changes Lives, LIVES.net. That will get you there. War Changes Lives. What a great domain. You're very fortunate to have that. .net, you say, N-E-T? So don't do .com, or you'll go somewhere else. .net. And thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for contacting me, and we will be in contact again. I'd love to have you as a guest blogger, on our website. We just rebuilt our website from the ground up all over again because it had grown over the years so fast that it was kind of lopsided and top-heavy, and it was slow, and so we made it cutting edge now, and we're real proud of it. And we're still adding the content from the other site because we just want to do it very carefully and methodically, and not build a duplicate of the top-heavy one that we had. So
that's a big job. That's gonna.
It is. But if you have money, I guess anything is possible. So I get a little nervous writing the checks to get it done, but it's for caregivers. We're saving lives, and that makes it all worthwhile. So give me a call in about a month, and we'll see what we can do. Thank you.
I look forward to that, Dave. I look forward to working with you.
Likewise, and I'm going to send you the audio and the video link, and you can it'll be a clean copy with all of the mistakes that we made removed, like it never happened at all.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah. God is like that. He kind of gives us erasers, and he just erases all of our mistakes and lets them be buried in the sea of forgetfulness with a sign that says no fishing. Well, goodbye. Thanks again. We'll see everybody next week, same time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Caregivers Caregiver radio program with Dave Nassani.